also I want to have a kind of introduction to CRISPR. Important. The first part of the lecture the nature. Just can you confirm once? Somebody, one more.
Sir, it is being recorded, but your voice is breaking, sir.
Can you confirm if my voice is
No, sir, it is not clear. We are not able to hear you.
it any better now? Okay, good. I hope it will go without any problems. But let's see. Yes, my screen is there. So in fun part of this somewhere we were discussing about uh, genetics and say also about we should have known about natural selection, isn't it? What does natural selection do, and why are animals or organisms that are existing still they are able to exist as they are, or in good shape, you can think of, or maintain good genes, or you can say genes that contribute to fitness. And what is fitness? Fitness is composed of two things. First thing is ability to survive. And the second thing is the ability to reproduce. And natural selection acts at these two levels. Survival is survival and reproduction could be because of abiotic factors. Abiotic factors means factors such as temperature or availability of resources or other physical and chemical conditions. But then there are also biotic factors. Biotic factors is about interspecies competition. Like, am I Is one species better than the other species in acquiring the nutrition or not? And to be in terms of reproduction, so here, sorry, for survival, abiotic factors play a role and biotic factors play a role. The biotic factors is mostly about interspecies competition. Okay, the ability to reproduce is dependent on two things. First thing is to ability to survive. So survival is the key to do anything else. First thing is to exist, and then be able to do something else. If there is no existence, there is no reproduction, isn't it? So the reproduction, to reproduce, there is another form, that is intraspecies competition. That is competition between competition within the self. I mean, within the same species. That is, the better ones, the organisms or individuals with better genes are likely to get more number of chances for reproduction. Okay, so in total, you can assume that the natural selection will act, and also it is also a matter of sexual selection. So evolution or the fitness is what is measured, and fitness is measured in the form, in the fitness is consists of survival and ability to reproduce. Survival is the most important one, or the fundamental aspect of fitness, upon which fecundity, or you can say it in other words, in simpler terms, it is ability to reproduce. So those the factors, abiotic, biotic factors, and I mean in forms in the terms of interspecies competition and intraspecies competition, is going to continuously refine a genome or refine a species, and that species is a consequence of a genome. And what does genome have? Genome has different genes. Genes by themselves are cannot do anything, right? Genes, as a, you can think of a conglomeration of genes, is a genome, and evolution is continuously refining for those genomes that are better fit for the habitat. Okay, so this is where this is the habitat, or the place where this organism is dwelling, will keep on refining. Or you can think of how nature, which is including every other organism, is continuously shaping a species. Okay, and it is refining. And when you say refining, there is also, you have to think of about, I'm not sure how much of evolution you have read, and there is no biology without any evolution. One has to learn evolution, and evolution comes, I mean, this topic of evolution is between science and philosophy, or it is both science and philosophy at the same time. So the questions are, is it survival of the fittest? That is what we all, um, survival of the fittest. What is evolution? If you can define it as survival of the fittest, or second way is perishment of the inferior. Okay, survival of the fittest or perishment of the inferior. I don't think you see, you probably do not see anything different in that, right? But there is a difference. In a way, in one way, people describe this as neutral evolution. In here, this could be defined as positive selection, positive evolution. We'll put it as. That means some trait should be there for an organism to survive better and reproduce more. And when can we say, how do we define fitness, whether an individual is fit or unfit? It all depends on the natural selection, on the selection or the stringency of selection. Okay, I think I will better write. It is referred to as stringency of selection. What is meant by stringency of selection? That is the degree with which the nature is, that is the stringency or the difficulties the nature is posing to the organism. I will try to use a concept from microbiology point of view. It is simple and easy to understand. So assume that there are 5 bacteria or 6 bacteria here, and each of them have a certain degree of resistance to some antibiotic. So one has 0 resistant. I'm just giving arbitrary units, okay? Just take it off like that. The other one is having 5 units of resistance. One is having 10, one is having 2, something is having 20, and the other one is having, say, 15. Now, if I try to say something like stringency, if I added 5 units of 5 units of antibiotic, okay, and here I'm talking, this is the resistance, ability to resist by a one bacterium, and here is the selection. What is the stringency of selection now? If you think of theoretical, okay, these are all theoretical or trying to understand a concept. Now, why I'm saying stringency of selection will determine is related to what, or it's a relative term about how we use what is what is fit and what is unfit or inferior. So I have added a selection of 5 units of antibiotic, which all will survive, which all will die. If you see that way, um, this is 5 unit. So sorry, this has 0 resistance, so it will die out. 2 has 0 resistance, that will die out. And this is 5 resistance units, so it will survive. 10, the other one has 10, that is also going to survive. And those with 20 and 15 are also going to survive. Now try to see the difference between the first scenario and the second scenario. If I say survival of the fittest, that means of all these things, what is the most fittest one? That will be the one with 20 units of resistance. And only that should have survived, right? So that has 20. So what shouldn't have survived? But normally in these conditions where we only gave, or this resistance or the selection stringency is only 5 units, all those that have 5, 15, 10, and 20 are also going to survive. If only this one is going to survive, then you are meaning that it is the survival of the fittest. Okay. If all these are going to survive, including these, then it is, what is actually happening? You're only deleting out those that are harmful. Sorry. Those that are misfits are eliminated from the population. And that is the meaning of what is neutral evolution. Again, it is, if it is positive evolution or neutral evolution, is always relative in nature, and that is a function of stringency of selection. So if you also can think of, I'll just add a little bit of change in the stringency for the sake of understanding. So instead of 5 units, now if I put 15 units of resistance, then majority, this is not going to survive, this is also not going to survive. Now the terms have changed. isn't it? And that is change is because of the stringency of selection. So what I'm trying to get at this, trying to describe all these things, is what happens in normal animals and what happens in human beings. In normal animals, the problem in normal animals, they each of the organisms strives hard. It has to each day get up, go out, fetch food, and those that are organisms find food are going to is going to be healthy. There are two ways of doing things. One is something if an individual, I'm talking about animals in general. So if an animal is born with a genetic defect or is caused by something like polio or other kind of defect, then this is not going to survive at all. This is going to be, don't I mean, when you are talking about this, don't imagine any of the domesticated animals. I'm talking about wild ones that are living by themselves without the aid or intervention of the humans. If an organism is born with a genetic defect, that organism dies, because in the animal world, in majority of the cases, the animals, um, they fetch their own food. Okay, the parental care is there. After that, I mean, everybody has to fetch their own food. Of course, in some cases there are social organisms, and then there is sharing of resources and all. Let's not get into that at this stage. um, if an animal is unable to fetch its own food, it's going to die. And if that genetic defect is going to cause a loss of fitness, then that organism is going to be eliminated. Food is important for growth and general maintenance of health. If you have food, you'll get healthy, and then you are able to get more food because you are going to survive. And through this cycle, one can also will also win reproductive rights. The reproductive rights, in the sense that one has to compete to be able to find a partner and reproduce to get offspring. But then we have so it has to do with two things. Health, when I say this, it simply means to survive to start with, and then the reproductive rights is also about the competition that is there. If an animal is undergrown, if it's not in proper size or fitness or strength, and it's unable to compete with its fellow uh, beings, then it is not going to have reproductive rights, and those individuals will not have an opportunity to propagate their genes. They're kind of inferior. So in the first case, I said here, these are genetic defective genes. They will be eliminated because they will not be able to survive for long. The other ones, those that are superior within the number of individuals, those that are better will have more reproductive rights, and they will survive. They will be able to pass on their genes. Those that do not have will not be able to. Again, if we go into ecology, evolution, and many other things, there are too many concepts at this stage to discuss. I'm trying to use those that are that I want to prove a point here. Competition is, I mean, I'll just put this in two words. You might be interested to know. Everybody should learn evolution, so it's an interesting topic. There are tournament species, and there are pair bonding species. Okay, a tournament species is something like there is always a tournament for reproductive rights. That means there will be infighting between the males, and those males that win usually get the reproductive rights. In pair bonding ones, one individual male will find a female, and they will live together. It's like there is no more, not so much of infighting. There is not, they are actually much more peaceful in nature. Each will find one, like in birds, for example, they find a partner and then they live together and then they lay eggs. If you take lions or chimps, majority of the primates and other things, there is a lot of gorilla, there are tournament species. Where do we fall? Where do humans fall? So humans, it is difficult to explain, but I can only give my opinion. And because as we see now, we seem to be like we are pair bonding type, right? Meaning that we are going to find one partner, happily lived after marriage, wedding, and all those stuff. On the other hand, our immediate ancestral species, like if you look at primates and other things, majority of them are tournament species. What we have to decipher it, we need to know two things. One is, what is our inherent nature, and the second one is, what is our cultural nature, right? I don't know if I have put it in a different way. The wedding or marriage is, I think, a way of cultural nature that we have learned or settled to. We are probably inherently, we might be tournament species, but different people have different perspective on that. I think we are tournament species, but through culture, we are all, we have adjusted or evolved a system where we seem to be like pair bonding. And marriage is a huge thing that has shaped the human population. Imagine if there is no concept of marriage and we were purely tournament species, what would happen? There would be a lot of infighting, a lot of violence, killing. And so because the rate at which people are killed or eliminated would be would not have resulted in so much of population to start with, right? So marriage has allowed or reduced violence. In reducing violence, it has reduced death, and by doing so, it has brought in a lot of peace among the species, and because of which our population also has increased. Imagine if these two were there, we would not have been a coherent group. We need to be in a coherent group to survive because we don't have any strength. A cat bites our skin. Our skin is so fragile, just because a cat bites, we get punctured. We don't have class. We don't have anything, basically. All we probably have is physical strength. I mean, muscle power at the most, that too not sure. We have only two powers. One is endurance, that is, we can run long distances. And the second one is our brain. We only knew how to escape from dangers and so on. But becoming social organisms or coherent groups with large groups without infighting has allowed us to live in with increase in population. And I think that is the origin of what is culture. So this is all well and good for the sake of population, species, democracy, human rights, and so many other things that we now practice, and that is the best part of our human species. Because in nature, you would never find anything as peaceful as we are able to do. Of course, there is fighting still, but no other species has grown so big. And probably one of the reasons could be this. This will result in peace and population. Peace and population will increase our ability to cooperate. Our ability to cooperate will make a coherent group. being a coherent group will make many things to happen. I think one of the influences could be that. The other one is money. We have been able to transfer a lot of things, right? So what happens on the population is different from what happens to the genes. Okay, as I was trying to put it in the previous slide, so marriage and money are two things that are that have played the role. How did money affect? I will just put that. I have 10 oranges, but I am full. I don't want to eat them now. So I can't exchange them for apples because I'm already full. And then there is only one way. I am not sure if I will get 10 oranges tomorrow or not. So there should be some form of liquidity in terms of economics, if you're trying to think of that. I should be able to convert or change it into something, say coins, with which I can buy oranges or any other form of food at a later time point. That's going to allow my survival. My inability to find food on one day could be saved by my ability to find more than required food on a different day. That's the power of money. It gives us assurance that we want to have it, if not today. If I have today, I have more than required. Can I use this advantage to find food when I am unable to get? So that's probably the origins of money. So these two are important ones for our population, for our um, upbringing, and many things as a species. But at the level of genes, something wrong is happening because of these two. Marriage is marriage is based. These two got together, right? Marriage is involved with money because okay, I would prefer money as transferable fitness. Okay, it is transferable fitness. Today I have more than I required. I can use that tomorrow when I am in difficult times. And marriage is about I will try to discuss these two so that I'll make the point clear. If a person is there, and if there are, say, two people, for sake of understanding and trying to think in the primeval ways, I will take it as a male. There are two males, and there is there are there is only one female. Sorry, I put it wrong. Yes. So there are two males and there is one female. Okay. So this is a male, and so is this, and this one is a female. Who will get chances? I will first try to give you situations about describe the two individuals. One of it, the individual A has genetic defect, but he has lot of money. And individual B has good genes, but no money. Okay. Then who is preferred is one of the questions. And there is nothing to be judgmental here, whether you should, whether choice A or choice B is right or wrong. If the female uh, marries and gives produce from here, they will be able to produce some offspring. Okay, assume 2 or 3 offsprings. But our whole system is being run by money. There are good genes, but no money. How will this female? The female is making an investment, or both are making investment in making a child, and it is so much taxing for the female because she has to spend 4 or 5 valuable years in raising each child. Okay, from conception till the parental care up to 3 years or something, the mother has to spend a lot of care and all those stuff. If she is going to do that, and these children to get their education or do any of the sort, there is no money, then is her investment good or bad? That is one way of looking at it. The other one is something like this. If individual A is given the reproductive rights, or if the female chooses the male A, and she has individuals or children, progeny, but some of them may have a genetic defect. They may be carrying the same genetic defect as the father, may. It's not for sure. It's a 50% or so chance. But yeah, it depends on the disease, of course. But the children can probably get the medical treatment. They may get treatment because they have a lot of money. Money is high. And they will have all the resources required for education, survival, setting up a business, or any of those things. What should the female do? Right? In general, what happens, I'm talking as a general phenomenon that happens in the world. Majority of the genetic defects like we have in genetic predisposition, like for diabetes or heart attack or many other things, they are not apparent. We can't see them. If there is other forms, if there are other physical defects, usually they can be figured out, and the female may make a choice based on what is visible and what is not. And if the genetic defects are not apparent or cannot be visualized immediately, the obvious choice for the woman is to go for the person with more money, because it's not about nothing to be wrong about. If you're talking in terms of very primeval ways, they need a lot of things to ensure that their children survive, do good in their future, and be able to propagate those genes for longer time. That's the objective of life. That's a good thing. But I will add it that the today's women have a job, they have money, right? They have careers. So I think then the obvious choice, if you already have these, then the obvious choice is to go for good genes. But if you cannot see them, then we cannot say anything about it. But at the same time, the genetic defects can also be with the female. So if you talk about these people, these individuals, if there are genetic defects, there are females with genetic defects, there are males with genetic defects. And there will be in our population around or about 4,500 genetic defects are there, are becoming more and more prevalent in the human genome. And in some generations, say 100 generations, we might not have even a single genome that is without a defect. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, how can we save the human population, our human species? Is there a way to do it? And that is where we will have, in the last class, we were discussing about diagnosis and so on. We need to have children with good genes, or to eliminate the bad genes from the population. to do that, we cannot do it after the child is born. Nobody has the right to kill a child because of their genetic defect or so. It's anti-human. Then when can we and how we can do things is one of the issues. There are several ways of doing it. One is before conception, you can get it testing and see if your what are the defects one has, and then try to do some kinds of repairs if required. Um, During pre-implantation, especially, in 2 3 maybe last year or so, there was a news article where the male, female, and male, they both had uh, parents who may have had BRCA mutation. Okay, it is involved or implicated in breast cancer. So now, if they have kids, the kids are likely to become homozygous, or it may be even carrying the BRCA gene, at least even as a single heterozygous. And how to, it's not a good proposition at all. You're bringing a child into the world and giving pain to them. I think that's philosophy is called as niche or something. You might want to check it out. So in their view, it is like you're bringing a um, life is a suffering. It's not a happiness thing kind of thing. It might sound weird to us, but it is philosophy. So what these people have done is they have undergone in vitro fertilization. That is, they will mix the sperm and egg in the test petri plate and will grow until a certain stage of embryo, say modular stage. Then they would take out, they can then take out a cell. Sorry. This is what happens. So when the embryos are there, you can take out and perform genetic diagnosis, like sequencing, or you can use CRISPR if you are if here the situation is about BRCA mutation, so they can be directly, we can use molecular techniques which are based on PCR to identify if the individual has the individual embryo, here it is embryo has a mutation or not. Then use only the unaffected embryos, the embryos that are free of those mutations which we already parents might be having, and then implant into the patient, implant into the embryos into the mother and get babies. Those babies are likely to not have those mutations. Okay, that is one way of trying to get uh, a good the progeny, making them healthy. But here, in this case, they were talking about one particular BRCA mutation on which sides they had a history of breast cancer on both the sides. So they got themselves tested. Both had one on allele each. So then they went for this pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. We can also do it for the newborn and see, and so that we can take proper care about what should be done to the child, what all precautions that would be taken. That is another way of doing it also. If we also have to, in terms of cancer, as I was talking about breast cancer, if we have prior knowledge about the history of the family, if there is a known mutation in the family, then we can do pre-genetic diagnosis, then keep on checking. Trying to repair is one of the ways to do it, isn't it? Here we are, sorry, here we are eliminating all the bad ones, affected ones, and allowing the complete term of the unaffected embryos. In the future, what we might have to do is we may have to we have to say, for example, if one of it is if one of the both the parents are homozygous for BRCA, something like that, both male and female assume that they have BRCA homozygous, just for theory, in theory, then their child will certainly be homozygous for BRCA. Then the pre-implantation kind of strategy is not going to work. We might need to edit the genes. We might need to perform kind of genetic therapy so that the embryos would be good in nature. So for that, we have two ways of doing it. One of it is the somatic gene therapy. If the baby is already born, then we have to do somatic gene therapy. Or if we have to do germline gene therapy, if the woman is, if the parents, whichever parents has the defect. So I want to try to explain these two and where we can do a lot of things with CRISPR. I'm not talking about the, I think you all have a fairly fundamental idea about what CRISPR-Cas is. If not, I have sent you the videos today. I forgot to post it yesterday. Today I have done. Please watch this, watch them and come. And then we'll start going into the molecular details about CRISPR in the future. One of it is if we have the oocyte and we allowed it to fertilize. Right after it's fertilized, we can use CRISPR-Cas9 system to modify the mutation. Okay. Once we have modified the mutation, then we are likely to have an embryo, because all the cells in the body will come from the fertilized embryo. If we do it at the stage of, say, what do you call morula, okay, then by that time already some cells have differentiated, and we should be able to do to all of those, all the cells in a morula. I'll get back to that. Let me just take this one. This is to say why it is better to go for germline. What is the difference between modifying embryo, editing at the late stage of embryo, and editing at the stage of gamete? If we know the mother or the egg or the mother has problem, and then we can isolate the eggs. Eggs are oocytes are already in metaphase 2 of meiosis. It will finish the meiosis only upon fertilization. So during that stage, we could use the CRISPR-Cas9 to repair the maternal genome, and then get a zygote that's repaired for the mutation, and then we are going to have efficient gene editing, because all the cells in this embryo are going to be healthy without a mutation. But if we let me go here. So you know that zygote, and zygote will develop into a morula, and morula will develop into a blastocyst. Blastocyst stage, there is differentiation. That is, first differentiation happens here. This is the ICM, and the outside is the trophoblast. And eventually the organogenesis and so on, and fetus will form. Okay, something like that. So where is it good to repair? In the zygote, or you can also do it in the gamete stage. Whether we should do it in the gamete stage, zygote stage, or morula stage, and from here on doing it is not so useful. Okay, because we don't know, we will lose control of it, in the sense we cannot make efficient modification in the rest of the organism. If we do in the gametes, it's a good possibility that we can select which ones have undergone the modification, and then be able to allow it to form a zygote, and then allow it to develop into morula, and so on. At the stage of zygote 2, it is possible, but we cannot be sure whether the genetic modification has happened or not until we grow to this stage. At morula stage, it can be done, but one cannot be 100% sure that all the cells in the morula has had their genomes modified. Okay, so when we say, there are three ways of, you can see it as, this is germline therapy. You can talk this as embryo editing, and from here on it would probably be somatic therapy. Okay, so this has become, I mean, there are still a lot of regulations to ensure that when we can do or not, but this is going to be in future the way we would want to have medicine, because we need healthy progeny. Healthy progeny is what we need in nature. In natural selection, healthy progeny is the only one that survives. Anything with bad genes usually perishes. Any individual with bad genes is going to perish. In humans, we don't have that natural selection. We are selecting everything. We are the natural selection. So now we need to have, the point is to have healthy progeny. And because of our science and technology, we have advanced so much, because of which we are no longer under natural selection, but we have to have the refinement that natural selection actually does. The refinement, in the difference in nature, it is actually so painful and violent. In nature, natural selection does not have any case for if you are unfit, you die. That's the kind of philosophy, or the motto natural selection has. In techniques using something like CRISPR-Cas and other things, I think this is going to be done and be able to allow the development and of healthy children or progeny, and that is going to be the biggest area of research in the future, because as we go in, as I was saying, 50 or 100 generations, that will become a big issue in terms of health. So here I want to just add a little bit and then I will stop. I think I already discussed this before, but I'll try to say it again. So there are individuals, say they get a progeny, say one progeny, and then they get married to somebody else, and then they have progeny, and then marriage. And this is the chain that happens in all the cases, right? So if we do somatic somatic repair or editing that we are trying to do, if we want to do, then we have to treat the person, individual. So this is the baby, the individual of every generation. And imagine if the whole population, or at least even if 10% of the human population is going to have genetic defect, and if we have to go for therapies like this generation after generation for this huge population, all the money and resources will be insufficient. So there is only one way, is to repair the germplasm of the individual, so that the baby born is no longer having any defect. We don't have to treat the generation after generation, right? So I hope you see the potential and the meaning and requirement of these kinds of approaches in the future. Any questions? In the next class, I will discuss about CRISPR. Try to remember these things. You always need to, if you are learning something, you always need to develop a motivation for that topic. And that motivation will make you learn it properly, and you will retain in your mind for a longer time. And hopefully you will go into that line of research and contribute towards it. Okay? Any questions? Hello. Okay then. Take care. We'll discuss tomorrow. Please watch the videos and come. Then we'll watch the rest. We will discuss about CRISPR-Cas. Okay. Take care and have fun. Yeah. Bye bye. See you. Bye bye.